I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that evidence.
There have been many related sequential coincidences all throughout my life. Incidents that by themselves would have led to nowhere. Now statistically, the odds against the same or related sequence of events happening to one individual are astronomically high. It is this series of incidents that have convinced me that God has had a hand in my life. I do not believe in fate. I do not believe in accidents. I cannot and will not accept the theory that long sequences of unrelated accidents determine world events. It is inconceivable that those with power and wealth would not band together with a common bond, a common interest, and a long-range plan to decide and direct the future of this world. For those with the resources to do otherwise would be totally irresponsible. I know that I would be the first to organize a conspiracy to control the outcome of the future if I were such a person and a conspiracy did not yet exist. I would do it in an attempt to ensure the survival of the principles in which I believe, the survival of my family, my survival, and the survival of the human race, if for no other reason. I believe, therefore, that a grand game of chess is being played on a level that we can only barely imagine, and we are the pawns. Pawns are valuable only under certain circumstances and are frequently sacrificed to gain an advantage. Anyone who has studied military strategy is familiar with the concept of sacrifice. Those who have seriously studied history probably discovered the real reason we go to war on a regularly scheduled basis. Before you go any further in this video, I advise you to play at least 2 complete games of chess. You must learn the rules they play by. You must realize objectively that some pieces are more valuable than others, and that the king is the most valuable of all. You cannot learn reality if you get caught up in the fantasy that it's not fair. You must come to know that the ultimate outcome of the game is the only thing that counts. You were lied to when you were told that it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Winning in the world of the elite is everything. Indeed, it is the only thing. The power elite intend to win every time. My research has shown, and at this point, that the future laid out for us may just be impossible to change. I do not agree with the means by which the powerful few have chosen for us to reach that end. I do not agree that the end is where we should end at all, but unless we can wake the people up from their deep sleep, nothing short of a civil war will stop the planned outcome. I base that statement not on the defeatism, but on the apathy of the majority of the American people. 25 years ago, I would have believed otherwise, but 25 years ago, I was also sound asleep myself. Oh, we have been taught lies, and reality is not at all what we perceive it to be. We cannot survive any longer by hanging on to the falsehoods of the past. Reality must be discerned at all cost if we are to be part of the future. Truth must prevail in all instances, no matter who it hurts or helps, if we are to continue to live upon this earth. At this point, what we want may no longer matter. It is what we must do to ensure our survival that counts. The old way is in certain process of destruction, and a new world order is beating down on our door. To cling to the past is guaranteed suicide. To remain apathetic is assured enslavement. To learn the truth and then act upon it, it is the only means of survival at this moment in our time, the hour of the Patriot. To shrug off the information contained in this video and to disregard its warning will result in complete destruction of the Republic of the United States of America. You will never get a second warning or a second chance. Like it or not, this is it. Stark reality. You can no longer turn your head, ignore it, pretend it's not true. Say it can't happen to me, and run and hide. The wolf is at the door. I fear for the little ones, the innocents, who are already paying for our mistakes. There exists a great army of occupational orphan children. They are attending government-controlled daycare centers, and latchkey kids who are running wild in the streets, and the lopsided, emotionally wounded children of single welfare mothers, born only for the sake of more money in the monthly check. Open your eyes and look at them, for they are the future. In them, I see the sure and certain destruction of this once proud nation. In their vacant eyes, I see the death of freedom. They carry with them a great emptiness, and someone will surely pay a great price for their suffering. If we do not act in concert with each other and ensure that the future becomes what we need it to be, then we will surely deserve whatever fate awaits us. I believe with all my heart that God put me in places and in certain positions throughout my life so that I would be able to deliver this warning to His people. I pray that I have been worthy, that I have done my job, and I will continue to do so. Fellow patriots, I will leave you with this tonight. One basic truth can be used as a foundation for a mountain of lies. And if we dig down deep enough in the mountain of lies and bring out that truth to set it on top of the mountain of lies, the entire mountain of lies will crumble under the weight of that one truth. And there is nothing more devastating to a structure of lies than the revelation of the truth upon which the structure of lies was built, because that shock waves of the revelation of the truth reverberate and will continue to reverberate throughout the earth for generations to follow, awakening even those people who had no desire to be awakened to the truth. I am Michael. This is...
So it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance.
Thursday, February 6th, is it? Yeah. 2020. What is going on, Patriots? I see we got a good little room full here. I actually popped on a video because I had to run out. I caught a little bit of it and then I got into it. That's a video I made a few months ago. Thank you for, didn't mean to shove it down your throat, folks, but sometimes you need to hear it, and so did I today because that was good. All right, so we got Rob Knorr with us. He's joining in. You guys need to get to his channel. I think the link, I'm going to grab the link right now and put it down below so you can get to his channel. And without further ado, well, let me, again, welcome to the Patriot Hour. If you're new, if you're a returning Patriot, welcome back. If you're a newbie, FNG, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Take a look, toggle the switch to work with you and your device in the best possible manner, the most annoying manner. So when I do a live video like this or some of the other videos we do, you'll get the alert and you won't miss anything. You have to kind of follow along in the grand scheme of things, folks. But again, here at the Patriot Hour, always think for yourself, always connect your own dots. Don't take anything I say, watch everything you can, read everything you want, but you're going to have to, in the intelligence gathering communities, folks, you're going to read a lot of things. And sometimes you come across things that don't pertain to what you're looking at, or it's just junk. You have to be able to chew the meat, spit out the bone, and get to that. And over time, you'll get better at that. That's what we do here at Patriot Hour. We're never bringing you things that we think are wrong or lies to lie to you. But that does happen, and it would just be a mistake of information. We get a lot of it. I really try to dig through things. That's just what we do. All right. So same here with Rob. Let's get him on without further ado, brother. Welcome back.
Thank you. Just everyone, I took your advice. I think I fixed my microphone issues, but it's great to be here. It's a good day. We've been having a good week for Trump. But, like you said, sometimes when you get these victories, it's almost depressing because you see how far we have yet to go. So, it's a bittersweet. We know that the corruption continues unabated, and
they're not wanting to give up, are they?
Right.
They called it. They said, no, we're going to keep going this. We don't care what the courts and the judges and committees. And think if Trump would have done that on on any of their little things like, I don't know. All right. So, declass. How about declass? Trump vows to declassify intel from Obama DOJ's. I was calling this today. I was literally telling somebody we were going over Fast and Furious, but, and I didn't think it would be the next thing, but I was like, he's going to declassify everything. He wasn't around, man. Let's think about this. He's only been around how long? 3 years? Or, we were going on 4. So, folks, what does he care? Why does this man care? What if he was to drop the veil on everything? I'm not saying, right before him from the point of 3 years in, outward. What would that do?
Oh, it'd be amazing. It would be such a shock. That's why Trump's played this so strategically. Now, look, for me, I'm greedy. I want justice now. I wanted justice the moment Trump won. I wanted the corruption to be ended. But I understand there's strategic value in waiting and playing the game like Trump did. Remember, the way this has been set up, the Democrats have made it almost impossible to argue against Trump declassifying this stuff. Take one example. The Democrats foamed at the mouth that Trump, in an unprecedented move, release a transcript with his conversation with the president of the Ukraine.
But they wanted to talk about it. They wanted to talk about it without the declass.
That's right. That's what they wanted.
Because they wanted the narrative control.
Yep. So by declassifying it, and then having this entire investigation over it, what's to stop Trump from saying, okay, now we're going to declassify some Obama calls with leaders of Hamas or leaders with Iran? Well, and they're going to be like, well, wait, no. But hey, that's what they cheered for, right?
Let me put it this way, folks. He's hitting on a good point here. How about the fact that Trump had, I think it was an average, I'm pretty sure on this, I got a video on it. I'm just trying to pull it up in my head. But let's say this. Trump had a leak for the equivalence of, for his first year in office, 2017, 1 leak a day when he was in. And the leaks weren't like beneficial for him. They were like things to target or whatever he was dealing with. They would be leaking that area to make something a mess. It was like leaks coordinated against Trump. from Obama holdovers, all right? And we also know on the outgoing Obama administration that he changed the way the intel agencies got information. He actually opened the floodgates to make it really hard to find leakers, and they all had access to a lot more things than they were supposed to. He didn't operate that himself for 8 years under that on the day going out, so that these people can start a coordinated thing. I mean, if you look at the facts, folks, it leads to stuff like this. Is there a little presumption on me? Most likely, but I'm just saying that's a fact. Oh, I'm open. Why would you do that? If you thought it was good, you'd do it under your own administration, but you didn't.
Right. So
he had a leak for every day he was in. And then on that phone call, I mean, you'd imagine like Trump just don't come into work or and they're like, I'm going to put stuff on a different server. He was probably guided, like, Trump, we advise you to put maybe that phone call on the White House server. It's not like a server at home in his basement in New York, Hillary, I mean, it's in the White House. And they're like, oh, he had hidden phone calls on the White House server. Then media was like, this is a server that isn't accessed. Basically, it was the leakers not being able to get what they wanted to leak something or look at it. So they blamed Trump for hiding it. But then it comes out a day later that, well, Obama put all his phone calls on this same server. I mean, what the hell? That's.
I mean, say what you will about Trump. He is quite literally the most transparent administration in my lifetime.
Already.
Right. And it's been applauded. The leaks have been applauded by the DNC, by the media, by the intel community. They keep saying, oh, if there's nothing to hide, we should encourage this stuff, right? They even call the rumorist or the rumor monger, who they call a whistleblower. It's not a whistleblower. The person didn't have firsthand knowledge of what was said. It's someone spreading rumors, but that person's supposedly a hero. So after 3 years of this, they're going to have egg on their face when Trump says, yes, I agree with you. Transparency is a good thing. Now here's everything from the Obama administration. And what are they going to say? Now, of course, they have no problem with being hypocrites.
He's going to rule in process.
Right. That's what they'll say.
Procedure, like the intel, the way they gather things, they're going to have every reason in the world. This is their only chance. They need to get rid of him before but man, it just seems like he could have done this at any time. But I guess taking the abuse, I don't know. I mean,
it's almost a biblical metaphor, right? Taking this abuse for the good of the country. And what they'll argue this process business, right? They'll say, oh, we can't release transcripts from Obama's administration because of the process. But the average American who doesn't follow this, they're going to understand the absurdity of this. They're going to say, wait a minute, if we could release all this stuff in real time under Trump, what process is possibly being affected by phone calls from Obama 9 years ago? Right? That's clearly nonsense. And so that's the fight that we need to be, us patriots here. We know the absurdity, but it's about reaching the millions of people that don't have time to look through all this stuff. And they know, they're starting to wake up, that this constant witch hunt against Trump is garbage. And when Trump brings the other foot down, they're not going to buy the Democrats and the media's excuse. Oh, no, you can't investigate us after we investigated Trump for 3 years. They're not going to buy it.
Now, if we were just to, since that's coming up, I'm going to put something in the title of this video for this Fast and Furious, because this is good stuff, folks. Put it this way, the hypocrisy of everything that just happened, the way it happened, the way they did it. Now, if we go back, Rob, do you remember the fact, that was a rogue operation that the Obama administration around Congress, and for people out there that might not get it, Congress, the oversight, all right, of these programs. They went around that and did this whole gun running scheme down in Mexico, put a bunch of guns out there in the hopes to track the cartel. But what ended up happening is we got some dead Border Patrol agents, U.S. citizens, Border Patrol agents shot. And I don't know if, they tracked the gun or the gun was left I could see how the cartel would shoot somebody and throw the gun down. And then that gun tracked back to our country. So they're like, well, this is a government issue. How did it get out of the vaults? The people that got it, and it led back to, there was this whole, subverted Fast and Furious program. So Congress at this point calls for all the paperwork from the Obama administration. Obama exerts executive privilege. Nobody calls for impeachment. And then they go after Eric Holder, the AG, which was his wingman. That was like Bill Barr is right now, but it was Eric Holder. And he comes in, he won't answer nothing. So then they subpoena him, and then he doesn't show up. And then they will go to hold him in contempt. The Republicans are like, we need to get this paperwork. They're trying to even see what it was about, folks. You don't just take guns and enter them into Mexico and then you end up with dead Border Patrol agents. Obama blocks it. Eric Holder doesn't show up to court. The Republicans in the House go to poll for hold him in contempt. I think the Democrats got up and walked out. Like all in uniform.
That's exactly.
I mean, what the hell? This is Pelosi, Nadler. Like, they weren't for justice. That's what we're talking about here. If they would have done that correctly, if they would have got Hillary because we know the crimes existed, I can't say I'd still be for what's going on with Trump because we know it's all bull crap. But I would be behind any corruption. I would say impeach Trump if he didn't investigate Biden for if there's possible if the corruption happened over there. Pretty sure there did. And if they don't investigate that, that's impeachable to me. Any president, because they're not
Trump's
looking at crime.
He said that today. Did you hear that? Yeah. He said he didn't say it'd be impeachable, but he said it would have been negligent for him not to investigate. Trump said that in his speech today. He's absolutely right. That's something that me and you've been saying. And when it comes to Fast and Furious, again, I have an outstanding challenge to anyone listening, Republican, Democrat, name me one crime other than annulment. The only reason annulment only applies to Trump is no Democrats ever owned anything before they were in office. So annulment, okay, that's been accused of Trump. But name me one crime that him or anyone in his team's been accused of, and I guarantee I could show you a more blatant, severe example of the Democrats or the intel agents doing it. So Fast and Furious, literally, that was claiming executive privilege. And unlike this situation, Trump's claiming it when it comes to a phone call. No one died as a result of this phone call. The supposed quid pro quo, it never happened anyway. Zelensky never did the investigation Trump wanted. Compare that to actual U.S. law enforcement agents being murdered by weapons sent through around Congress to Mexican cartels. That's actual people dead. And the Democrats threw a fit that the Republicans would dare to just request paperwork. So not only did they claim executive privilege, where did they go then? To the courts. Now, never forget this. The second charge that was charged with impeachment for Trump was obstruction of Congress. Every single Democrat, 47 of them, voted to remove Trump from office for obstruction of Congress. Not one of those people said word one when Barack Obama, the exact same thing, issued executive privilege and went to the courts to stop us from learning why law enforcement agents were murdered.
Yeah. And again, folks, taking guns, going around asking to do something right and making an Operation Fast and Furious. And so once Congress got wind of that, they wanted to simply understand it more. That's what Congress is there to do, right? Congressional oversight. These are tax dollars. This is good. They're not supposed to be doing anything rogue.
And
that alone.
I said, it's not just the president. Look at the executive branch encompasses all of the agencies, the IRS, the EPA, the FBI, the CIA. That's all unelected officials that are basically the boss of them is the president. How many times a year do you think these agencies get subpoenaed evidence, get Freedom of Information Act requests? And what do? They go to the courts. How isn't that obstruction of Congress? Look at the FBI alone, still to this day under Christopher Wray, but certainly under Rosenstein when the Republicans controlled the House. Every single time the Republicans asked for a piece of evidence regarding the FISA issue, the FBI stymied them at every single case. Yeah. Tom Fitton for Judicial Watch. This guy tries to file Freedom of Information requests as a job every day.
I know. He's great. They've been up there since the 90s, like doing it since around Clinton. I think the Clinton era, they moved into D.C. and they've been there since. Doing it on every president. They do good oversight, or they're always pulling for FOIA. I mean, they sue, or if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have half the stuff. That's big time.
So, Albert, let's just take the past 20 years. How many times do you think that evidence was requested that some of these executive agencies went to the courts? Tens of thousands? Hundreds of thousands? Now, if you're an average American out there and you're like, man, this impeachment stuff's really confusing, just know this. Say 100,000 times executive agencies used the court before they just sent information over. Only one time has it ever been suggested it's a crime, and that's when Donald Trump did it. That's how ridiculous these people are.
Yep. I mean, that's it. They're desperate for some reason. It's like they're desperate to get the power back, desperate to get him removed, desperate to keep something on him at all costs, because it's hard to operate. So people have brought up, why is he waiting all this time to do that? I mean, was there a better way? By him naming off Biden, and that's a political person running. And it was almost like did Biden only get in for that reason? You know,
Right.
So why didn't he use Hunter? Why didn't he go after Hunter? Wouldn't that have been better? Because that's not a political opponent, and it still would have led to Biden most likely. But I mean, that could have been smarter. But I don't know.
I mean, the story didn't make sense from the get-go. Let's say it's true, right, that Trump was just going after who he perceived as his rival, Biden. Why would he do it in a room full of people that he knew some of them already are leaking?
If he would have used Hunter, they still would have said it was Biden. Like, they just would have said, and it was like, well, no, you said Hunter. Well, you know that his dad's running. They would have done because when he said 2016 election on the Ukraine, they were saying, he meant 2020. But if he would have said 2020, I need you to look into it because I want to interfere in the 2020 election, they would have kept those words exactly like that on the transcript. But since he said that it was, can you, work with Bill Barr? Bill Barr is going to come. I just wanted to introduce you guys, work with them. You're going to be transparent. And this is about the 2016 election meddling. And everyone's like, well, in the transcript, it says 2016. And for some reason, the media just like, well, we know that he was wanting to meddle in 2020. He didn't say that. You don't say that, and they add it. So.
Yeah, well, and I mean, think about it. So he does it in a room full of people. So if you're going to break the law and take this big risk, wouldn't you at least wait until Biden was the nominee, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? And not only that, if he waited until Biden was the nominee, then if the scandal is real, the Democrats are stuck. They can't put someone new up, and it's closer to the election. Instead, a year out, when Biden's basically just getting in the race, he decides to break the law in front of dozens of people. The truth is this: if Trump had his druthers, I bet he'd be pulling Biden to the finish line, because Biden is so pathetic. He is the easiest opponent for Trump to beat in 2020. So why would he want to get him out of the race? If anything, he'd be helping Biden.
Very true. What do you guys think of that? All right, Patriots. That was a good point there. So on that point, we were talking about this. Did you happen to see I think his name is Bob Turley. Do you know that guy? Jonathan Turley?
Jonathan Turley. I know him quite well. I used to use his evidence in debate all the time. Okay. Brilliant man.
Have you seen him recently? Like, I'm going to play a little bit for the audience. It's only a 2-minute or 3-minute video on the dot, folks. So I'll skip through a little. So like 3 minutes. We'll watch a little bit. We probably won't watch the whole 3 minutes. I'm going to come back if I hear a good point, but we'll get through this.
Mr. President, if you make a high crime and misdemeanor out of going to the courts, it is an abuse of power. It's your abuse of power. You're doing precisely what you're criticizing the president for doing. You're saying Article 1 gives us complete authority that when we demand information from another branch, it must be turned over or we'll impeach you in record time. Now, making that worse is that you have such a short investigation. It's a perfect storm. You set an incredibly short period, demand a huge amount of information, and when the president goes to court, you then impeach him. Now, does that track with what you've heard about impeachment? Does that track with the rule of law that we talked about? So, on obstruction, I would encourage you to think about this. In Nixon, it did go to the courts, and Nixon lost. And that was the reason Nixon resigned. He resigned a few days after the Supreme Court ruled against him.
So right there, they're saying in the Nixon era that the Congress asked him for the tapes or whatever they wanted, and Nixon refused. Nixon said, I want the courts to tell me what the heck I got to give you. And he tried the courts the proper way. The courts ruled, release it all. They get out of there, and he's like, I'm resigning. So it worked. Like, the process worked. Now, what did they do differently this time, Rob?
Well, this time, instead of allowing to go to the courts, they said the mere act of asking the courts was a reason to impeach. And
stripping him of what?
That strips him of his rights, right? That strips him of his right to defend himself in due
process, folks. They took his due process away. Trump's not entitled to that. He's a president. Mm-hmm. Just like people think, ban him off Twitter. He doesn't deserve. I'm like, we got the president doesn't deserve free speech? Due process? What in the hell kind of world are we getting to? So that's
And
another
look-
point. We hit a good point on your phone on his show earlier today. I highly encourage you to subscribe, get to his channel, check out his last live stream, watch the whole thing. I call in like the middle or towards the end, but check that out, folks. But we hit a good point on something else, but this is a little different even. So there's a couple different angles here. I mean, that just seem
Right.
out of the box. But I don't
Well,
know.
your point that you made that you're talking about, and you put this, I'm going to steal this from you. You said Trump was acquitted for a crime he didn't commit. Bill Clinton was acquitted for a crime he did commit.
Two.
They
Like,
acknowledged
charges.
that, right, Bill Clinton perjured himself. That's acknowledged by even Bill Clinton. It's just they said the crime was committed, but we don't feel removal from office is the remedy. With Trump, he was acquitted in the sense of the crime was not committed. And that's a huge historical difference. And I thought you made that point brilliantly. I'd like to take credit for that, but that was you.
Well, also on that whole point of wow, I'm just curious, man. It seems like I don't know how to even. Is there a simpler way you can? There ain't really much simpler. Like it's almost like the police saying like you're guilty, and you're like, well, I want to go to the courts. Like anybody does. Like if you're charged of a crime, folks, you get to go to court. And it's like, nah, the courts take too long. We're just going to put you straight into jail because the courts take too long. We don't want to gather evidence and give you due right. That's the process of going to court. Is your last chance to defend yourself. That's what the problem is with the FISAs. You know, you don't get that right. You're absent to even know that they're doing all this stuff to you. But you hope that they're doing their job right. As we saw, that was abused as well. I mean, there's got so many things going on.
As an individual, before the police can take things from you, they have to have a warrant, right? That's the judicial process getting involved. So imagine what this is literally a world where police could just say, I accuse you of this, therefore I'm raiding your house and taking whatever I want. No need to get a warrant. The accusation is all they need. And if you protest and you say, wait, I'm going to call a lawyer, they say, the mere fact you've called a lawyer is itself a crime. Yeah. That's exactly what they're doing. I guess that'd be the best way I could simplify it.
Think about
and
that.
Somehow, and look, it's real simple. The founding fathers were brilliant. They're smarter than I'll ever be. They understood we needed 3 co-equal branches of government. And from time to time, each branch has some sort of oversight over the other. They knew that the executive and the legislative branch would at some point clash. So they set up an impeachment process. But they also knew that the third branch, the courts, had to weigh in. Because if you allowed one of those other 2 branches to become supreme over the other, we would literally just, it would make elections irrelevant. Whoever wins Congress now controls everything. Because if you get a simple majority, you would just say, okay, impeach, and the president's not allowed to defend himself. So they understood the dangers of this. This is another example of the Democrats trying to tear up the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, I got to add this. Aren't most impeachments like studied over colleges like Harvard, the law classes, like they're working off the Clinton one now, and they've been digging on that semester after semester. Now the teacher gets excited like, ooh, we got a new one to dig into, and the class is learning. I mean, this will probably be ripped apart by that. I mean, if you look at all the actual facts, if they allow all the facts into the colleges to actually give it a good whirl, but you would see like, well, that's out of the norm. We're all here in law class, and that right there would be, I mean, that happened to the president. Like, they're going to allow that? They're going to allow that to stand? Yep. That's my question. Does this stand? We've heard of like, evidence gets tainted. The cop took it home. He didn't do the proper chain of command, and then lawyers figure that out, and they're like, oh, and they strike it off the case or mistrial. Mm-hmm. That was my last. I know impeachment's over. Now the thing is, well, he's got it, and it's a stain forever. Like that's all they truly wanted. But man, oh man, did they maybe mess up some? I don't know the right wording to say. Like we talked about, can it be overturned, clean slate, never happened. The actual history books will reflect that they tried to do something, but they did it so illegal that the abuse of power actually is flipped around. And now, what if there is an abuse of power out of Congress? What happens? I don't even know.
Right, and so Alan Dershowitz makes the argument that if Trump is acquitted, then that means he was never impeached. And he's a more brilliant constitutional mind.
That would mean the same for, like we said, Clinton, right? Go back to Clinton.
Right. So theoretically, Clinton wouldn't have been impeached. But here's what I'll say. Like, here's the way to look at it. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, right? Do you think history looks at Nelson Mandela and says, oh, there's a criminal, there's a convict? No, because they understand the people that imprisoned Mandela were corrupt. That to me, even if impeachment, because this is what it's all about. This is what the Democrats want. This is what they gloated on. Oh, it's a permanent stain on his record. But if history shows, yes, he was arrested, it'll be like Rosa Parks, like, sure, or not her specifically, but like the people that marched where it was like, yeah, technically the civil rights leaders were arrested, but it was for corrupt reasons. Technically Trump was impeached, but it was due to a corrupt process. And so history will bear out. Even if that impeachment stays there, it will be a badge of honor for Trump, because to be impeached by corrupt people themselves is a mark of patriotism and honor as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And maybe if all this other stuff is exposed, and then you see the process. I mean, if it's all there and it gets laid out, it could be.
Well, think about this. Here's something, maybe you'll have something to say. This is something I said during the Mueller investigation, but it applies here. Both with Mueller and with impeachment, they talked about obstruction. And so with the Mueller investigation, we know definitively that Trump did not commit the underlying crime of him or anyone on his team stealing the election with Russians. We know that's true. But they still say he obstructed. The question I asked at the time, and I ask about this impeachment, obstruction of justice, can you obstruct a corrupt investigation?
Yeah.
If the cops plant cocaine in the back of your car and you know it's not yours, and you protest it and you say these cops need to be fired, and you say, I'm not going to participate in this process because it's corrupt, they planted this cocaine on me, the cops might say, oh, this is you obstructing justice, you won't hand over evidence, blah, blah, blah. But if it turns out they framed you, you didn't obstruct justice because there was no justice to begin with.
Well, that goes to so this whole FISA process. And once we go back a little further overseas, like once... So if the transmission came from overseas from the Australian intelligence group over there out of the Five Eyes system, they sent a transmission over on this certain date. I think it was like June 28th or whatever. And then, June 28th. And then 2 or 3 days later into August, the FBI started the surveillance thing. Well, that transmission came in and they keep talking about our process was right, even though we know there were 17 errors now at that FBI office, 17 errors and omissions. All calculated, by the way. It looks, but Horowitz didn't lay it out so bad for him. Trying to cover up the area over there. But what if that transmission comes in bad? What if the fruit of the poisonous tree relied overseas? I don't care how well all your people handled evidence and what you did for 2 more years. All of it's done. It's fruit of the poisonous tree because you had a very corrupt act at the very beginning. Nothing stands after that. That's the way I feel about all of this shit. So I think that's where that stands at. Like, we can go through Prosy and that you guys copied papers right, put your stamps on them, put them in the correct drawer. I don't argue with that. All the people involved, because they probably didn't know what the hell was going on. You take a corrupt thing and you feed it into your system and they do everything and chew it up and spit it out like they normally do. Great. But that was a bad act, right? I mean, isn't that
right?
How it...
I agree. It's kind of complicated. I'll make this as simple as possible. You're absolutely right talking about... We have got the FBI, we've got the Democrats and everyone to admit, after years of deflections, the start of the Russia investigation was George Papadopoulos. The start of it was a professor named Joseph Mifsud talked to Papadopoulos, said, I know some Russians that got dirt on Hillary. Papadopoulos gets drunk and tells an Australian diplomat. That's the official story that everyone agrees with now, right? So Jim Jordan, if you go back to the Mueller investigation, right, when Mueller's testifying, Jim Jordan said what is an absolute bombshell that I don't understand why the Republicans don't talk about every day. He looks at Mueller and he says, listen, you know that Mifsud was the guy, the Russian agent who started this all, right? Supposedly. Yes, Mueller says. He goes, okay, the FBI interviewed Mifsud. They said that Mifsud lied 3 times to the FBI. Yes. Now, you arrested people connected to Trump, actual servicemen and patriots, because you say they lied to the FBI. Yes. So why didn't you charge the Russian mastermind spy who started the entire interference into our election system, who you had dead to rights for lying 3 times to the FBI? And Mueller gets furious. He goes, we're not going to talk about decisions why we didn't charge people. And Jim Jordan says the bombshell that you're talking about here. He says, is it because Mifsud's Western intelligence? And that's the truth that's going to come out. Joseph Mifsud was working for the UK. Now, when you talk about fruit of the poisonous tree, think of what that means. That means the admitted start of the Russia investigation started because the CIA had allies in the UK send a spy to a low-level Trump employee that Trump had never even met tell him a rumor. That Trump employee got drunk and didn't do anything illegal, just told an Australian diplomat that rumor, someone also connected to the Clintons, and that was the excuse to spy on Trump in the entire investigation. That is the depth. Not only is that fruit of the poisonous tree, that is corruption and possibly treason of the highest level.
Yep. I mean, that's why Brennan and all these people are and they're the ones involved. They're the ones that went around screaming for the loudest 2-year circus going around Clapper, Brennan. This all leads back to them, folks. They were running some rogue operations. It's not the whole CIA. It's not the whole FBI or these different agencies. But you had a rogue little element.
Disband them all.
Yeah.
I'm running for Congress in 2022, and this will harm me. I don't care. My stance is disband the FBI and the CIA. It is so corrupt at this point. And you're right. Everyone always says, well, not the low-level people. Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't care, though. If you find out that your local police force is literally planting drugs and framing people that disagree with them politically over and over and over again, you get rid of everyone in that police force. There might be 1 or 2 good people there, but that's how I feel.
They're law enforcement. I would say, like the body, because we know there's like a lot of veterans that get out and then they get into the law enforcement. Sometimes it's the FBI, but these are like the field agents. So they wouldn't know anything. It's like, if you're
right.
Like we just saw, the people that are the movers and shakers are like the top 5 people, and from there they can take all the information flows uphill, and they're it's compartmentalization, folks. I mean, but those people will be able to find other jobs if an agency was banned. I mean, we know the government. Anytime, the biggest thing is when you push the government to do something, you need more oversight, and they're like, well, we need a new agency, and then the minute that starts with 8 people and then some funding, and then the next thing you know, they're pushing for, we need more people, more funding, and it creates jobs, that's salaries. These people want to stay there for 30 years. So yeah, I mean, I'm with JFK, the CIA, rip them into 1,000, scatter it into the winds. 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the winds. They're no good. They time and time again. They do a lot of good stuff, and it seems like more so than not. And I don't see it.
Well, did you see Trump? In his speech, his victory speech today, right? He talks about corruption of people like Comey and the FBI, and I watch Democratic, fake media people and DNC people over and over. In fact, I actually saw Bill Kristol, media person extraordinaire, tweet, can you believe how dark what Trump said was? Oh, it's so troubling how Trump went after the FBI and Comey. Isn't it telling that the elite class, the establishment class, are more concerned about Trump complaining about FBI corruption than they are about FBI corruption? That would be like you get stabbed by a gangster and you say, wow, we really got to control these gangs. And they're like, hey, Michael, it's really troubling you're talking about gangs. And you're like, yeah, don't you care about the actual gangs? No, we don't care about that. We're just troubled that you're talking about it. If that doesn't show that they're all part of the same corrupt establishment, I don't know what is.
That's what I, like we were talking about for Trump. I mean, if you really break it down, all he did truly, without adding all this stuff in there, because it's like the media's adding or all the pundits that want to talk about it, no different than Adam Schiff up in Congress there wanting to make up stories and give the narrative on it. Like what he really meant was this. And so if you just take that out of it and you look at that phone call, Trump, all he really did was ask about the 2016 and would you work with the attorney general and when they come over, hopefully you can, are you willing to look into the 2016 Russia or meddling of the election? And everyone's like, that's it, impeachment. And it's like, wow, if there's really some crime there, you guys that's not worth looking into. You're wanting to get out a guy that asked about corruption, like just for the mere fact of asking about it, that's corrupt. Right. It's wide out in the open. He did it in front of everybody, and he messed up. But yet, we don't know hardly anything when all this talk started coming out about his son. That's a fact. Like, well, weren't you in charge of it? Yeah. Wasn't your son on the energy board? So what? All these things are real. And it's like, my mind goes towards, like, just got booted out of the Navy. I was in the Navy. And I knew guys that got kicked out for drugs, folks, and they had a hard time getting their life together. And I'm not saying because they were hooked on coke. I'm saying because of the bad discharge that offers when you get out. Like anymore, it's like you can't get a job at McDonald's for several years, and it's just really a bad stain on your record. but yet this kid, like, you know, gets out of and he was an officer. So I know that charge, he probably didn't get a dishonorable because that's like you got to kill somebody, but he probably got a bad conduct discharge, BCD, big chicken dinner, we used to call it. So he got the big chicken dinner, BCD discharge, and boom, falls down in some shit and lands up in the Ukraine on a $166,000 a month or $80,000 a month, whatever it is. Yep. And it's like, wow.
I mean, like, take the Bidens out of it for a second. So I know from talking to you enough that we both feel this way. As long as it's evenly applied, that's fine. If people connected to Trump broke the law, fine. Charge them. We just want equal application of the law. So if you're out there, right, if you're one of the people watching this show right now, and maybe you hate Trump or you disagree with the law, what we're saying, let me just ask you this. Is foreign interference into our election a big deal or not? That's it.
Only if it's Trump.
Right? That's what's infuriating. You spent 3 years telling us it's an act of war. It's the biggest deal ever. It challenges our democracy. And then when we have the public admission of Ukrainian officials admitting over and over again during the election, yes, we're interfering to help Hillary. My live stream tomorrow is going to be all about that fact. So just that one instance alone, and the Democrats go, oh, no. This example of election interference, no, we can't look at it. And they lied to you. Again, if you haven't followed the situation so clearly, here's their excuse for why they're telling you not to look at Ukrainian election interference. It sounds complicated, but it's literally this simple. They say, well, Ukraine couldn't have interfered because Russia did. Yeah. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's
only
like
one
saying,
interference at a time, folks.
Yeah, that's like Michael, if me and you break into someone's house and they say, well, Rob couldn't have done it because Michael did. Like, it's so stupid. And the average person has to see through, like, what are you talking about? I read the Financial Times article from August 2016. That's 2 months before the election, where Ukrainian parliamentarian Sergei Lyshenko is admitting, yes, we interfered in the election to help Hillary. I saw the head of their FBI, it's called the NABU. I saw audio of him on Glenn Beck's show saying, yes, I interfered to help Hillary. These aren't low-level people. These are people high in their government.
They had to exchange, or, like for the first time on Glenn Beck, they took that footage that's been out for, like he said, it was been just sitting there for 8 months or 6 months, but we had to translate it. And as far as we know, nobody's done that. So we did. And here's what we got. I mean, it was bombshell. I watched that live feed that night. I came on here. I told everyone about it. I was like, you guys got to see this. 3 chalkboards full of information.
Awesome. That was an awesome
crazy corruption to the highest levels. And then it lands on his thing to a third chalkboard to a timeline to just Trump's phone call asking about all that stuff, or just one instance in there. And get him, because he's asking about all that. That's what it seemed like. He's asking about all that.
It's so expansive, it seems complicated, but it's really not. Like, it seems daunting to look. I mean, that's one of the things they've learned. Who was it? Was it one of Stalin's people said, people believe the big lie. Like, the bigger the lie, the better. And that's exactly true. If you're just a little bit corrupt, it's easy to figure out. But if the corruption is so massive, the average person's like, I can't wrap my head around this. Just break it down real simple.
You got them, possibly, like, the people guilty creating the lie. And then you got their media pundits as an echo chamber to just, because we also know the other good statement is say a lie, repeat it often, and the people will believe it. So that sucks, folks. But that's so even when this all comes out, there will be people that don't have, hopefully.
It's sad.
Yeah.
I try to make it as simple as possible, right? Because I think that the information look, there are the people that are just so partisan on the left and hate Trump so much that they're not going to listen to reason, right? I'll still talk to them. I'll try my best. But there are millions of people that just don't know because the narrative is controlled by the establishment left so much, they don't get this information. So the best thing to do when talking to these people is just make it as simple as possible. Is it okay for foreign governments to interfere in our election? Is it okay to ask a foreign government for dirt? Because that's what Hillary Clinton paid for. They got dirt from a UK spy, and they got dirt from Kremlin agents. Is it okay to destroy subpoenaed evidence? Is it okay to go to the courts and ask if you have to comply with subpoenas? That's simple. Just get a yes or no. And then when they say either yes or no, you say, would you be surprised to learn that the official stance of our media, of our government is, in every one of those instances, it's not okay when Trump's team does it, and it's okay when Hillary's team does it. Every single time.
They're there. You're right, because it's like, You know, when you start talking about the emails, it's just some emails. People act like it's nothing. So she did well. Like, what do you mean? Like, wipe it with a cert? Like, she played dumb. Like, she didn't really understand it. But if you have a private server set up and you're operating that way, you got all these devices. Then she says it's for the ease of the one device. Well, she had 13 devices. So that's not ease. Who has 13 devices? That would drive me nuts. Going through that. So I'm sure they all were at once, but it's, you would think she probably had 2 or 3 different things, personal, government. I don't know, folks. It's not right. It's not equal. That's our biggest thing is, if they could have just done a little bit with anybody else, maybe we can stand behind what was going on with Trump, but we really wouldn't because we know what's going on. Or maybe we wouldn't because if it was equal, we'd think like, okay, this guy gets in and he's maybe corrupt. But here's the other thing. He's dumb. He worked with Russia. So we have the biggest intelligence agency, the biggest budget in the world right here, the CIA, the 17 intelligence agencies, folks, complete. So Trump was able to, as a citizen, work with Russia off the grid of all of our intelligence gathering devices, and he's just a mastermind, but he's dumb. Work with Russia, jump into our election, not only successfully do it like a Navy SEAL without leaving any record of it, wins. And then after he wins, they go on to a 3-year investigation with Mueller to look for more, and they come up empty-handed again. So it's like he duped him for 4 years, but he's supposed to be dumb. I don't see how you'd pull that off. It's impossible.
The story was dumb it was so stupid from me. I mean, they're literally saying that they were grooming Trump when he was doing The Apprentice. I mean, what next? Are they Vince McMahon at WWE? Are Russia grooming him now too? And like the whole story, I mean, just think of this at the very base level. Literally, their argument is this. Trump had back channels with Russia for years. He's dealing with Russian oligarchs and mobsters and Putin. So he had these connections to him where he's talking to him all the time for years as they're grooming him. Yet, when it came to interference in the election, he had to publicly ask them on TV to hack them. He had to send Michael Cohen, his lawyer, to probe. This makes no sense. If he had these connections to them and he's talking to them nightly, he's got a red phone connected right to Putin. But instead of picking that up, he went in national I mean, it's the dumbest. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows. You remember Project Veritas had that undercover video with Van Jones from CNN? And the guy goes up to Van Jones and he's like,
he's out on the street
corner.
Man,
what do you think of this Russia? Yeah, and he's like,
nothing burger.
Bullshit.
Nothing burger, man. That's nothing burger.
He knew. They know.
They know.
How do you
he was really normal. He
night?
seemed like a cool guy. I might want to hang out with him the way he was acting. But no, once he gets on the show, it's like, it's like they must really deal with some stuff. Some of them people over at CNN like come home and just stare in the mirror, maybe end up punching the mirror so it breaks, and there's like, oh, my life sucks, man. I hate this.
I hope that money helps, just like Bernie's Lake House, I hope they're happy.
Or Elizabeth's plane, right? I mean, you did a video where you saw that.
I saw it, yeah.
She tried hiding. I mean, they can't see me if I'm right here. It's like, you're not a 2-year-old. We can see you. Or I'm not a 2-year-old. I can see you. Just because you can't see me.
Like your position, Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, all of them, that these socialists that are progressives that are constantly hypocrites, how hard must it be on your psyche to advocate positions that you contradict every day of your life? Like, I might not be wealthy, I might not be the smartest person in the world, but basically what I advocate, I live by. I'm not criticizing people for life choices of things that I've done. I might say, hey, I can do things better, etc. They're literally like, oh, your light bulb in rural America, your car that you're struggling to pay off just so you can go to your 9-to-5 job, it's ruining the environment. Now let me hop on my private jet to head to my 3rd lake house, and I'll cover myself in shame. Like, that's how you know she tries to hide. She's shamed. It's so ridiculous. And like, you just wonder, how do you sleep at night? I would take. It's like Mitt Romney. Like, I was saying
I don't know if I don't know how she feels. Like you said, ashamed. That would be a good guess of mine. Or I don't know if it's ashamed or the fact like she's trying to not make sure it got out, so all her people that she was trying to get to vote for wouldn't think she's a freaking fraud. Like.
Well, yeah, it's not shame, but the fact that she's hiding proves she knows it's wrong. That's she doesn't care that it's wrong.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't hide. If you didn't think it was wrong, you'd have waved.
Yes.
Yeah, it's It's so dumb.
She would have went and talked to
it's
the
like
cameras like Trump does. Walked right up, hey,
Yep,
hey.
exactly. Yep. It's like Mitt Romney, right? Like, I don't care that Mitt Romney worked at Bain Capital and basically bankrupted the poorest of Americans with credit cards. I don't care until he starts waxing moral. Then you're like, okay, dude, if you're going to talk about how moral you are, then maybe we should look in what you did for a living. Now, if you're J-Man, I'm a businessman, I did what I had to do to help my company, but I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm telling you I'm better than you. I could live with that, right? It's that hypocrisy. I could live with someone telling me, hey, don't fly on airplanes if they're not flying on airplanes. But if you're telling me, hey, your light bulb's ruining the environment while you're flying on a private airplane, shut the F up, basically. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's insulting.
Exactly.
It's so aggravating.
You don't need your gun, but they want theirs.
Right. You got open borders in their gated community, right?
See, when you see this double standard, you just... All right, I don't know my own phone number here, but if the mods or something have it, put it out there. We'll take a few phone calls. I didn't realize, we're almost at the hour mark, but we can go a little longer here.
Yeah, I got...
Take a few phone calls. You got to get going. You got stuff. I mean, we can go.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife will just yell at me when I'm done, so I'll stay on here as long as possible.
We're good. I mean, once about 5 more minutes we hit the hour, we'll see how we'll take a few calls. Nothing long. You guys want to ask Rob a question? Call in, or just in general anything we've kind of talked about, or maybe another little question you might have. Ooh, let me see if I got everything on.
I don't know if people put the number up or... Oh, I have a reverb? Sorry about that, Kraken. I'll pull the mic away a little. I'm too loud. Yeah, talking about socialists, though, while we're waiting for a call. It seems Victor David Hanson, he's a great scholar. He talks about this a lot. You see him on Tucker. He says, socialists will never have the misfortune and living in the utopia they prescribe for you. In other words, all the rules they say, these are the moralistic rules that you have to live by. Oh, but we're outside of them. You know, we'll continue to live in our gated community with our armed guards while we tell you open borders, no guns. It's literally everything. And to me, I don't care if you advocate a policy and you say, we think this policy is good for the country. What's aggravating is when you say it's moral. This is the morally correct position.
Hello, we got a call. You're on the Patriot Hour.
I can't hear them.
They might. I didn't either. I think they hung up.
Okay.
I don't think my ringer's on, so I'm not going to hear anything at all, which is kind of cool. I'll just have to watch it. I might.
Right.
You keep talking, though. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean...
Let me put the number here. I actually didn't even get the number out, so somebody must have had it. Oh, my bad. 622-0283, I think. Yeah. All right.
Right, Umpire Post. If it's good for the people, it should be good for them, right? And that's the argument. It's this moralistic argument. It is not moral. Like they'll say, oh, poor people need health care. That's the moral thing to do. The moral thing for you to do, if you believe that, is to give your own money, not to steal from other people and then give it to the group you want. That's not a matter of morality. Now, I'll have the conversation with you whether or not that's good policy, but I'm tired of the left and the establishment left claiming this faux morality. It is not moral. They're some of the most immoral people I know. If you are unwilling to live by the standards you judge other people by, that is by definition immoral. So I'm not going to listen